Okay, now what we'll do is we can create our sorry we can create our ambient light. Okay, what would be the ambient light? You remember applying that HDRI image base. All right, so ambient light. For the ambient light I only required my drum, add selected, and we need just a white shader, right? So that will get the color of environment. The ideal way is the ambient light for is you have a proper HDR of the location, but right now we are not in the location. We just take a random image from online, which is a flat image. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try to manage with it, because all what we need is just a color of that particular environment. So uh, in our mentally render settings, indirect light, we will activate image based light here, and make sure you will turn on the Python gather, and during that itself I will say this attribute please create layer override. Rest I never want it to be turned on for anything. Okay, it's only turn on when we are working into the ambient, and into that we will apply the same image, which is under again in our pass references. That's the environment what we are looking for, and try to rotate that environment to get the right location or the position if it is possible. Okay, which is something like this would be fine. And under its this HDR dome render status, primary visibility, final gather, yes, everything. Okay, visible in reflection, refractions no, remove, 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 and just into the final gather. Okay, and hypershade, my ambient light makes its color to the pure white, and apply to this render. Okay, that would be the color we are getting from our environment. All right, so that's it. This is done. Make sure it never come in between of, never, not even in here. See here, create layer override, final gather. Okay, so always check with all the layers. Come back again. Yes, it's working fine. Okay, so now it is set. Let's move on. So let's talk about reflections. Hence, it's a metal surface. No matter how rusty it is, it still carries some kind of a reflections. All right. So for getting a reflection, again, we'll create a simple shader here. All these you can find it out in another method, which is into render settings in Mental Ray. You have something called passes. They also offer not only the same but even more options around it here. But what I always insist to the students is you should first know how to create your own material, your own shader, before you will use the automatic presets for everything. Okay, so don't worry, in the later stages I will explain it to you how to include the render passes also. Okay, so right now what we are talking about is, yes, reflection shader, and into the reflection shader all what we need is reflection, nothing else, pure reflection. So again, bring the colors and eccentricity high. It depends to what kind of a reflectiveness you required, and I will include my HDR as well as my drum there. Okay, this HDR I command only visible in reflections and refractions. Same HDR image, because that's the same environment we want to be reflect. Okay, and we apply that reflection shader. Let's take a look. No, no need for the final gather. Final gather not required. There we go. What we need to do is visible in environment also needs to be turned on, so we'll start getting some of the reflection. Let's see, can we push a little bit of the same unevenness, the rustiness of a normal map if we include here? Will it improve some quality? So we'll check. How we can check? Always click here, so it will say, it will preserve your render, the earlier render, so you can compare. What if I again plug the same thing, I'm sorry, plug the same thing into my bump and tangent space. We'll keep this one also and again render. So we will that's it, that's it. Okay, so again I applied it again to the same normal map into the bump map, so my surface itself become distorted, so the reflectivity also behave according to. Okay, so I'm happy with it, so let's carry on. Yes, all right, all right, all right. So yep, we finished up with the reflection also. So the only thing what we remains now is shadows, right? Yep, so shadow. Okay, now for the shadows, if you remember anything, what elements do we need? Of course, the primary light which casts the shadows, object which receive the shadows, and object which casts the shadows, right? So we need all three of these properties. We'll hit add select, and few modification we need to do. One is we'll select my geometry, and into its render setting I'll say you only supposed to receive the shadows, not supposed to cast the shadows. Okay, this object I say cast shadows, receive shadows, we'll check it first, and attribute presets, and I say shadow. The worst thing in a shadow is when I apply this shadow, my render automatically switch to software. So I'll say no, you have to stick into the mandatory. Okay, which is a very weird thing. I don't know why I do that. And let's do the render. All right. So the render would be displayed into alpha because my shadows are as an alpha information we created. So that's the shadows we have. I think it's looking okay. I think we can carry on with it. Okay, because some of the shadows, because it's a bump part here, so it should cast its own surface also, some of the shadows here. All right. I think we can, or as we know that light source is straight on the top, the shadows would be straight to the down. Okay, so that's fine for us. So I think anything else we need? Direct and indirect radiance. All right, which is good. All right, how we can do that? Let's check it out. First, what we'll do is before we start, I will save the file, and let's render all these images one by one. Okay, and then we will start doing our comping. So I have so many multiple images here I don't need, so let's remove it. Alright, and let's start doing it one by one. That's my shadows. Perfect. File, uh, save image, and where should I save? I will save it again to our render passes, and yeah, I will create a folder called images. That's my, I'm always saving into IFFY because we need RG alpha information. Okay, so IFF provide you a good, nice, very light format along with alpha. It's a very good format actually. Reflections, ambient light, file, save image, and that's my specular. It's very weird. There's no logic behind it. Why it's doing this? There's no logic. But anyway, right now we are not here to do that technical issue. We are just here to do our compositing. So carry on. That's our diffuse. Okay, that's our oh. Here you go. Now besides of these passes also there are multiple passes. It depends to the requirement of your shot. Okay, for an example, if it's a long shot, if we have a lens blur, we have to include a lens blur. If we have a motion, we have to include the motion blur, which is so called 2D motion blur, or normal blur, normal vector pass. So there are multiple passes that we can still explore. So now, hence we already have all these passes. Let's save it, closed. And how much time we left? Okay, we still have some. So today I will just demonstrate to you guys how to combine it in After Effects. Okay, alright guys, let's start. Now, then passes my references, that is my image here. Drag and drop, that would be my image. And let's start with the compositing. Alright, double click and you have images. Select all of them, hit OK. Straight, always import as a straight. There we go. There it is always. Always start with our diffuse first. Drag and drop my diffuse. I think if I'll change it to 50, yes, it fits perfectly. Alright, so my compositing is actually needs to be, that is my original size. Compositing setting and 800 by 600. There we go. Okay, this is our drum. Diffuse. Then I will include we start getting our shadows, right? Okay, and let's include the reflection. These are the reflections. How we can use the reflection, with which mode? Try with add. So they will include. It's not that reflective, it's too much. You can use add or you can use screen, anyone you want. Okay, and you can control its. All right, there we go. And then specular, again specular, add, so it includes here specular. Check it out how exactly it is working. I mean, will it supposed to be the pure white? No, I don't think so. So let me try it with screen. Yes, and all right. But did you see this specular, which is a white? Our lighting should be not exactly white there, right? It should have a slight little bit of a tinge of this environment. Okay, so for that what we had to do is ambient light, what we did here. On the top of we have this ambient light, and that one we will say it will bring up a sense of that particular environment. Okay, now again we need to, okay, see the difference, this to this. All right, and now the final, that's my shadows. Shadows, did you see any of the part? They don't have a so extreme dark shadows or black shadows. So what we need to do is, all right, but again the shadows have a little bit of a color information of a background. So what if I again use some blending mode? um, yes, a little bit of a overlay. So did you see the color becomes more little. Okay, and afterwards my AO on the top of everything. Okay, AO, and we'll say multiplied. Okay, but too strong, we need to match with their existing ones. Okay, which is actually we are very close. All what we need to do is adjust a little bit. Okay, so here we go, that's our drum stand there. All right, they will make such a good nice interaction that okay it is surrounded with, it bring up a very good nice sense of it. All right, so that's it.